Imagine you're walking with your wife or your husband in a somewhat dangerous area, and some scary looking thugs come by, and the husband says to the wife, "I don't know you. You're on your own." Doesn't seem like the right approach, does it? It seems like this is what Avraham Avinu did in Parshas Lech Lecha, in this week's Torah portion, when they were going down to Egypt to find food because of a famine. And Avraham noticed that the people of Egypt are not so virtuous. So he said to his wife, "Imrina achaisiat." Please say, "You are my sister. You're not my wife. We're not married." So the question begs, how could Avraham Avinu, who was the kindest of all men, Ish HaChesed, he was kind to the Arabs who bowed and worshipped the dust of their feet, how could he not be so kind to his wife, to his own wife, and just let her go? And that's the very obvious question that we have in this week's Torah portion. Just to note quickly, we are in the midst of a crisis, which God willing will end well, and we're here in Cleveland. And here in Cleveland, we're making tzitzis for the soldiers, for our brave, holy soldiers, as tzitzis has elements of protection, as quoted in the Talmud and in the Torah in many places. Moving on to our question. So Avram dropped his wife. He says, "Tell him you're my sister. You're not my wife." How could he drop her like that? And moving on, the words he says is "Lamani tavli ba'avorech," so that it will be good for me. In the end, they gave him presents, right? The Egyptians and the king flooded him with presents. So what was Avram suddenly becoming selfish? Over here, Avram, the most selfless man, suddenly he wants gifts. He says, "Lamani tavli ba'avorech." What kind of man is that? And what happened to Avram? And finally, if he's already trying to protect himself, why does he tell Sarah, "Imrina achaisiat, imrina achaisiat"? Tell them that you're my sister. Why not tell them, "You're my assistant, my luggage carrier," or "a complete stranger. I don't know you at all. We don't know each other"? Why specifically the sister? Those are the questions we're going to attempt to answer right now, based on the Zohar. The Zohar says, just to in preface, the Torah is not a book of stories. It's a book of lessons, as the Rebbe would always say, and therefore this story, it is a story, but has a lesson for all of us. And we know that there's something important here, because Avraham did it again later on in Gerar, and Yitzchak did it later on also in his lifetime. So the classical commentators, Barbanel and the Sforno, talk about this, and they say that Avram was trying to buy time. In saying that her husband would automatically kill him, that was obvious. They'd kill him and take her. But saying that he was a brother, he was buying time. How so? Because looking through the previous stories and the later stories, in those times it seems like the culture was that the brother would be the matchmaker, and he would arrange for the marriages. And he would, so like we see this previously when Eliezer, or actually later on, when Eliezer came to look for a wife for Rivka, who did he negotiate with? It was Lavan, Rivka's brother, not her parents. And then later on, when Shechem and Hamor abducted Dinah and they wanted to keep her, who did they negotiate with? It was Dinah's brothers, not her parents, not Yaakov. So here we see, says the Abarbanel in the Sforno, that the culture of the time was that the brothers were the negotiators of the match. And therefore, Avraham was saying, I'm going to say I'm a brother, I'm going to buy time, I'm going to negotiate, find the best suitable fit match for Sarah, and things will be good. By that time, we'll be out of here. The problem with that, I mean, of course, it's a holy explanation, and it's true, but the challenge with that, where it falls short, is that it didn't happen. This negotiation never happened. They saw Sarah, and they took her straight to the king. After taking her straight to the king, then, well, what is Avram supposed to do? Is he supposed to just let her go? Was Avram afraid of a fight? Seemingly not. Avram had just battled 4 kings. There was a world war going on, the Torah tells us, right before the story. He battled 4 kings who had overcome 5 other kings, so they were the mightier ones. And he battled them and successfully saved a hostage, Lot, who was his nephew. So if he's ready to battle 5 kings and save his nephew, is he not ready to battle a few soldiers in Egypt and save his wife? That's the question, and that's where that explanation falls a little short. And the Zohar, the Kabbalah, explains a little bit differently and says that Avram wasn't running away, he wasn't hiding behind his wife's apron. Actually, he was, but not for naught. The Zohar tells us that Avraham saw a guardian angel fixed, protecting Sarah. It was impossible to hurt her. Nothing can get to her. He knew that she was safe. Not only that, but he wanted to be part of that safety. He knew that she was safe, and he also knew, and this is what the Rebbe teaches us, that the Maaseh Avosim Lebanim, the history, the historical facts, the stories of the Torah are signs for our times. That in all times and places, it's the wife who protects the husband. We have our perspective flipped. We imagine that it's the husband, the strong, mighty man, who's supposed to protect the weak woman. But it's really the exact opposite. Says the Torah that it's in the woman's merit that protection and blessing comes to the home. And this happened. That's why Avraham said, you're the one. Tell him you're my sister, and I will be protected for you. And that's why Yitzchak did it also, and Avram did it again later on. This also explains why Avram said, Leman yitav li ba'avorech. If you look at the etymology of the Hebrew word, it will be good for me. Exactly translated, it will be good. But Avram should have said, Leman yitvu li. They, plural, will do good to me because of you. The Egyptians will gift me because of you. But he didn't say that. He said Leman yitav. The word yitav in Hebrew also could be yetiv, or yitav means he will do good to me. Singular. Who is this he? Avram was talking about this guardian angel that was on top of Sarah, saying this angel will also guard me, ba'avorech, because of you. So therefore, I am protected. And finally, it's a beautiful, not finally, one more thing and then one more thing. There's a beautiful support to this. In the weekly hymn we sing Friday nights for our wives, for the women of the world. Eishet Chayil mimtza, Eishet Chayil mimtza, verachik mipnimim mechra. A woman of valor, who can find? And it goes on in the praise of the woman. There's 22 verses of praise of a woman. Common knowledge is that King Solomon, the wisest of all men, composed that in the Song of Songs. Sounds beautiful, but it's only partially true. Avraham, actually composed it. And the Midrash tells us, verse by verse, what he meant. The Midrash says that Eishet Chayil miyimta. Avram, it says in the Torah that when Sarah, Avram's wife, passed away, it says Avram went, lispod the Sarah. He went to eulogize Sarah, to talk about her, to tell the people about her. And what did he say? What was his eulogy? It was the Eishet Chayil. What was the Eishet Chayil? And inside the Eishet Chayil, there's quite a few verses that demonstrate that we're not talking about someone who is alive currently. We're talking about someone who has already passed on. It says, Batach ba lev bala. He trusted in her. He relied on her, past tense. And it also says, there's a few verses that say, Kol yemei chayeha. First of all, I'm sorry, the first verse, Eishet Chayil miyimta. Miyimta means who can find, which means it's not found right now. That's the first verse. And then, Kol yemei chayeha, like all the days of her life, which means it passed on already. Vatischak liyom macharon, she laughed till the last day, which means she's already gone. So here says the Midrash that the Eishet Chayil is really what Avraham explaining why he left Sarah to the lions back then in Egypt. Because Batach ba lev bala, it was really on her. He was relying. Batach ba lev bala. He was secure in her ability to save him. And then it goes on and it says a few, gimbal, come back. There's a few more verses that talk about that. Gimalatu tov velora. Because of her, good things happened to him and not bad. And then Dershat Sem Rupishtim says that she was able to discern. My gimbal's not working. She was able to discern between the two materials, which is referring to Yitzchak and Yishmael, etc., etc. Further on, we have one more question. I'm just going to try to stabilize this for a moment. One more question is that, sister, why did Avram say, tell them you're my sister? Why not just say, you're a stranger, I don't know you, I don't know him, just disconnect? Over here, the Rebbe talks about this in a beautiful way and says that there are different ways, forms of relationship. The relationship between husband and wife are seemingly two external people who are coming together, two separate people who come together in a bond for marriage. But they're two separate people and they could be separated. Then there's a bond of siblings, brother and sister. Nothing can separate them, no matter how many times they fight, no matter whether or not they get along. There's no separating between siblings. They cannot separate. They're stuck together. So Avram was saying, until now, the bond between us was a bond of a husband and a wife. Now, we need to strengthen our bond to that of a brother and sister. I will never let you fall. I will do whatever I can to make sure you're safe, although the safety is in her hands with her guardian angel. So that is why he asked her to say, tell them you're my sister. Siblings are stuck together no matter what. So too parents and children. As I just said to my daughter yesterday when she sent me a note about one of her friends who's pretty cool. I said, she's cool, but I'm stuck with you because you're my kid. She wrote back, heartwarming. Anyway, moving on. The Rebbe, the lesson over here, the Rebbe says for us, is that in our relationship between us and God is representative of our relationship between husband and wife and our spouses. So too, there are some things, sometimes we feel separate from God. We feel like we could be like a husband and wife, and that we could divorce, God forbid. We could separate. But the Rebbe says we need to strengthen our relationship and be like a brother and a sister, like a sibling who cannot be separated. And furthermore, the Rebbe says that in the relationship between husband and wife, there's two levels. One is the external one that we just spoke about that can be separated. And then there's a deeper level, a soul connection, because they're one soul coming down into two bodies. And that's the level of sibling within the relationship of husband and wife. And that's the relationship we need to develop and emphasize and grow and focus on in our spouses, in our families, and also between us and God. God bless us, and God should reciprocate in kind and really take care of his family down below. God bless you all for watching. Join